They say dogs can sense evil, that a good dog knows when something's off, even if no one else in the room feels a thing, you know what I mean, right? Well, I never believed that until the day Radar, my retired canine partner, decided to pass judgment on a man everyone else at Memorial Hope Hospital called a hero. It was one of those picture-perfect Tuesday mornings, sun spilling through the windows, everyone smiling, the world pretending it was safe. I've been volunteering at the hospital for 2 months, just walking Radar through the geriatric and rehab wards, making patients laugh, letting staff sneak him treats under the table. People thought Radar was just a sweet old dog who'd earned his pension, but those folks had never seen what I'd seen hadn't watched him dig a body out of the snow in Fargo or sniff out a murder weapon at a half-collapsed home in Kansas. This dog, he didn't just react new. That's why, when we rounded the corner by radiology and Radar froze up, my heart started pounding even before he growled. Dr. Charles Bennett, Mr. Golden boy himself, mid-40s, white coat always crisp, the kind of guy who knows every nurse's knee. He came striding down the hall with that easy smile. But Radar stepped in front of me, hackles up, eyes locked, and let out this deep, guttural warning. It didn't sound like fear, it sounded like a verdict. "Whoa, easy there, buddy," Bennett said, laughing it off and fiddling with his surgical mask. I tried to laugh too, apologized, but my hand was sweating on the leash. The nurses in the hallway giggled, guess Radar's got opinions about bedside manner, but I couldn't shake the feeling twisting up in my gut. The last 2 times Radar growled like that, it led to handcuffs and Miranda rights. I tried to let it go, told myself maybe Radar smelled something weird, or maybe I was just tired. But by lunch, I was in the staff lounge on my laptop, running DR. Bennett's name through every search I could think of, hospital websites, local news, even medical license databases. All I got was a bunch of awards, a thin backstory, a lot of missing years. Then my phone buzzed. Nurse Helen, sounding rattled. "Lena, you better come quick. He's doing it again." Same doctor, same hallway, but this time Radar wouldn't budge, teeth bared, refusing to let Bennett pass. Now, 2 nurses and a patient in a wheelchair were watching. One of them started recording. Bennett tried to play it cool, but his knuckles whitened on his clipboard. I trust my dog more than I trust most people. So that night, I called in a favor from Frank Delaney, an old detective buddy. "You want to run a full check on a doctor because your dog's got a bad feeling?" He groaned. "He's not just a dog," I said. "And yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking." Frank told me to give him a day. The next morning, things just got stranger. Radar stopped in front of Bennett's office, sniffed low at the door, whining like he'd found something behind it. The smell of bleach and something metallic hung in the air. My hand shook when I called Frank back. His voice was lower than usual. "You're not crazy, Lena. Charles Bennett died 6 years ago. Car fire, outside Reno, body burned beyond recognition, but dental records said it was him. Except the same week, a surgeon named Lucas Darnell vanished while under federal investigation. I think Darnell took Bennett's name, Lena. You ever get that feeling your whole world just tilted sideways? That was me, sitting in the chapel with Radar's head on my knee, replaying every weird thing Bennett ever did, avoiding certain cameras, moving like a ghost through the hospital. Frank dug deeper, came back with the kind of nightmare you don't wake up from. Darnell was suspected of illegal transplants, organ trafficking, fake deaths, you name it. He'd vanished a week before an FBI raid, and he'd been hiding as Dr. Bennett for 6 years. So what do you do when you're the only one who knows the truth and nobody wants to hear it? You keep digging. I started tracing every file, every security log, even combed through boxes in the hospital's records basement. Radar found a box marked Maintenance Archives inside. I found a manila envelope with a wanted poster for Lucas Darnell, a police sketch, old notes. Someone on staff knew maybe more than one person, and instead of blowing the whistle, they hid the evidence. Or maybe they got scared into silence. The next day, I wore plain clothes, ditched my badge, and tried to get close to Bennett's office again. A nurse stopped, mess suspicious, asking why I was on the wrong floor. Elite. It didn't matter. I needed proof. That night, I showed the chief nurse, Deborah King, what I found. She stared at Bennett's photo beside Darnell's mugshot and just said, "This could bury the hospital." I told her I didn't care about the hospital. I cared about who'd get hurt next. The very next morning, an intern named Cara Carradine didn't show up for rounds. Her car was in the lot, her phone unanswered. Hospital security swept the place. Radar pulled free from my grip, bolting toward the old basement outside a locked storage room. He started barking, wild and desperate. I demanded keys from a janitor. Inside, the smell of chloroform and metal hit me hard. Cara was on the floor, barely conscious for still in her arm. Radar planted himself between her and the shadows, growling. Security reviewed old camera footage. Bennett led Cara away, face hidden, and then vanished. By the time the police stormed his office, everything was wiped clean. Darnell had ghosted again. That night, I sat in the chapel with Radar, watching colored lights spill over the pews, thinking how close we came to losing Cara. Frank called, voice tired. He's got money, contacts. But now we have a witness and your dog. He won't get far. The hospital scrambled, issued statements, closed wings, ordered audits. But I knew Darnell would circle back for unfinished business. Men like him always do. It wasn't over. Digging through files, Radar and I uncovered a cold case of Jane Doe, patient of Bennett, missing kidneys, no next of kin. Then we found Arthur Callahan, a wheelchair-bound auditor who tried to blow the whistle 2 years earlier and ended up with a stroke. Arthur's story sent chills down my spine. He'd started finding irregularities in Bennett's case's patients with no family, vanishing organs, forged records. He tried to go public. Days later, he collapsed on hospital grounds, lost movement and speech, survived but never the same. Arthur looked me in the eyes and said, "He poisoned me. I know it, just can't prove it." With every new lead, it became clear the hospital had been Darnell's hunting ground for years, protected by people who cared more about reputation than patients. The director tried to stonewall, but the evidence, missing death certificates, falsified audits, hidden rooms, was impossible to ignore. We found a secret surgical suite behind a fake wall, an unregistered operating table, vials of blood, tags with dates going back 5 years. In a crawl space behind the lab, there were 3 beds bloodstained, recently used. Darnell had experimented on the vulnerable, the voiceless. When we finally traced him to a cabin deep in the woods, I didn't know if I was walking into an ambush or a confession. The place was a horror show: surgical bay, chain chairs, old camera equipment, blood in the corners. Darnell stood by the table, calm as you please. "You don't give up, do you?" he said. "Not on my watch," I told him. Radar's growl was low, warning. Darnell tried to lunge for a weapon. One shot to the leg dropped him. FBI swept in minutes later, airlifted him out under armed guard. When it was all over, the hospital fell apart. Directors resigned, doctors arrested, patient families demanding answers. I didn't make speeches. I stood on stage with Radar beside me, his metal glinting, and told everyone, monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they're the person you trust most. But dogs like Radar, they don't care about faces or fancy titles. They care about the truth. The crowd stood and clapped, but what stuck with me most was the way Radar looked up at me, eyes steady, like he was ready to go searching again. And, maybe he was right. Because evil doesn't rest. It hides, it waits, it wears masks, sometimes a badge, sometimes a doctor's coat. But somewhere out there, there's always someone like Radar, refusing to let the truth stay buried. So tell me, do you believe animals can sense danger better than we can? Have you ever seen a pet react to something you couldn't explain? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's talk about what justice really looks like when the world stops pretending and starts paying attention.